Greetings gamers, my name is Anto and welcome to another live stream. I forgot to post a little message into the chat being like, I am here, I'll be there in just a second. But oh well, if that's the worst thing that happens all evening, we're gonna be absolutely fine. It has been a hot minute since I've done proper streams. It's been like months since I've been regularly streaming, and I thought I'd jump on, do a little kind of channel update because it's been a while and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and then we'd dive in and have a look at the brand new Psion class that's just dropped into Unearthed Arcana like 3 hours ago while I was eating my dinner, and I was like, well, whatever else we're doing in the stream this evening, we're gonna have to have a look at that. So yeah, let's start with the channel update. If you are watching this in VOD form, there's going to be timestamps, vague timestamps down below for the important stuff. Channel update, kind of Unearthed Arcana business, and we will go from there. So yeah, it's been a while since I've done live streams. I did like one in April, but before that, we've not done regular streams since like February, and my general kind of publishing schedule for videos has been all over the place all year, and that is mostly due to health stuff. Anyone that's been watching the channel for a while now will know that I have been having a whole bunch of ongoing health stuff, like chronic illness stuff, for the last couple of years. And in kind of January into February, I had just such a bad flare up, and I was like out of action, bedridden for like 2 solid weeks, and it just ruined all of my plans for the year. I had so many grand plans for this year. Tail end of 2024, I was like, right, next year I'm going to do like 3 Kickstarters. We're going to do like a big book, a little book, and the cheat sheets for revised 5th edition. We're going to do all of these things, and we're going to be super protective, and we're going to be Mr. Business. No, just health was like, sit down. So that's not going to happen, and I'm going to be changing my kind of approach to work for the rest of the year so I don't die, because not dying is great, and I really don't want to post another like, hey, I'm not dead video because I've made enough of those. So the kind of headline news is shift in the video schedule from being like aiming for once a week, which is what we've been doing up until I've just taken a break, been off for the last couple of weeks, just come back. This is my first day back in work after like 2 weeks off. So we're shifting from a weekly schedule to more of aiming for like 2 videos a month, like every other week for main channel videos, and then supplementing that with going back to regular stream schedule, because that requires much less of like, not investment, because being on for camera for like 2 hours solid is a lot of like energy investment, but it requires a lot less in terms of I don't have to script anything for a live stream, and I don't have to do any editing, so I only have to have the energy for a live stream in the time that the live stream's happening. And then once the live stream is over, I don't need to commit energy to that piece of content outside of that time. Whereas with a video, I need to like come up with the idea. I need to script it. I need to film it, and then I need to edit it and do the life cycle. The total energy life cycle of a video is much greater than like a live stream. And I was looking over analytics stuff, and anyone that's watched these streams for a while knows that I love diving into analytics and talking shop and behind the scenes stuff about YouTube. And even though live streams make less money overall than regular channel videos, view for view, live streams make way more money than regular videos. So each view on a live stream is worth way more in terms of like cents per view than a regular channel video. So it's easy to justify that, oh well, like pare back on the regular videos in exchange for the live streams, and like not even necessarily trick yourself into being like, well, I'm not going to lose out on much money, because it will be a loss of some income, but it's one of those things where all of my Chronicle people will know that you've got to be like, I have to do this thing for my health. So we're gonna move to more live streams, and I've got a whole bunch of ideas for things to cover in live streams. We're gonna do the regular world building stuff. We're gonna look at some Unearthed Arcana stuff like we are today. We're gonna do more shop talk live streams, because that was one of the last ones that we did before I took the break, and that was a lot of fun, kind of talking about some behind the scenes industry stuff and kind of the behind the scenes workings of doing this sort of job. And I like talking about that stuff because I like demystifying that kind of stuff. And then also have the kind of sci-fi game stuff that I want to bring more into the live streams and do more like development stuff for that in the live streams. So that'll be a lot of fun. So we're going to drop the regular videos down from aiming for every week to aiming for sort of every other week, but increase the number of live streams. And then also I want to make sure that I'm hitting the members only content. So do the thing, professional transition. So channel memberships are a thing on the channel. If you want to help support the channel, help keep the lights on, help keep me fed, and do all of the online minstrel thing where I dance for my dinner, you know the deal. You've been on the internet for long enough to know how this works. Channel members get access to a whole bunch of behind the scenes content and exclusive videos. So I've been putting out campaign diaries. The next campaign diary I'm going to record, when are we? Tuesday. I play on Wednesday, Thursday. I'm planning to record the next campaign diary on Thursday, because that should take us to the end of a nice little arc to update everyone with the campaign diaries. They've also been getting other kind of exclusive world building stuff, and then some kind of developer diary stuff for like the sci-fi game and like monster building workshops. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff. Helps out the channel. Internet minstrel brain isn't braining enough to give you the like super polished spiel. I will give you that at the end. I will summon the brain power to convince you all that it's at least worth checking out by the end of this stream. That is the promise that we'll make to each other, that I will have the words to convince you that the members only area is an awesome, good, fun time. Yeah, you can tell that I've not done this in a while. So the goal is to make sure to keep up with the members only content, and I would like to do more of it. I need to change my music. It's way too energetic. I've got Foo Fighters blaring in my ears and I can't concentrate. So I'm going to swap this music out for something significantly more chill. And then that will all be good. I don't know what we're going to swap out to, because you hear different things to me, because I don't want to get sued for copyright infringement. Let's do something chill. I can't find anything chill. There we go. Chill music. Put on my sleep playlist and just completely fall asleep in the middle of the live stream. There we go. Immediately I can feel my blood pressure coming down as the music changes. So, members only content. That's where I am. Scatterbrained as I am. The brain fog is real. The hope is, no, not the hope, the intention. We're doing it with intention. We're cutting down the number of regular channel videos, and we're going to be making sure to keep up with the members only content, because the members are paying the bills and keeping the lights on, and the member support is incredibly valuable and is already making up a huge kind of percentage of the YouTube revenue that is coming in at the moment, which is amazing. And to achieve that, I've been messing around in OBS with OBS settings and with my Stream Deck, with the intention to be able to make members only content without editing, because editing takes so much of my brain power. Like, it's a labor intensive process, and it takes so many spoons to do. And especially for like noodly world building topics, there's only so much like pizzazz you can give that to kind of like dress it up beyond the here is the like usable, actionable information. It's part of why that sort of content is members only, because it's really hard to package into an algorithm friendly way, because it might only appeal to like 5% of the audience, but those 5% of people that it appeals to are going to find it so useful and actually be able to apply it to their games, but it's not got like broad appeal. So it's perfect like members only content. It's like, if you know that you are into this kind of stuff, then you know that you're going to get super cool value. So I've been setting things up behind the scenes to try and make it so that I can do things like, no, that's the wrong thing. That shows you zoomed in on a screen that I don't even know which screen it is. But like I'm pressing all of the buttons and none of them are the right buttons. So let's immediately try this again. There we go. So like this, our usual streaming version where you get my face in this little circle and you get the screen. Like normally if I am editing a regular channel video, that is 2 streams of video spliced together. Being able to record that as one baked in stream of video for members only content, not having to edit it, super useful. Not like cutting down the back end work that I need to do to get more content out to you is the goal. So like however long I've just been talking, like 13 minutes to say I'm trying to do what I can to give you more content without burning myself into nothingness. You can see it's going well for me. Amber, thank you very much for joining the Black Vaults of Iroh. That is our members only section, the Black Vaults of Iroh, and is a location in my homebrew setting. It is the repository of the most dangerous and intriguing magical artifacts in the cosmos. It's held in the realm of knowledge, and within the Black Vaults you can find all manner of mysteries, just like you can in the members only section. So I have achieved my goal for the day. Like grabbing one new member from these streams is an amazing boon, and I truly appreciate everyone that signs up. Like, you help keep the lights on, you help making the videos worthwhile, and it's awesome sauce. So what else is on the agenda for this mini update? Because there is other stuff. I have a list. You saw it briefly when I was pressing all the wrong buttons. So sticking to sort of 2 channel videos a month instead of 1 a week. Aiming for at least 2 members only videos a month. Usually that will be a campaign diary and then other. So the next other video that I'm going to be working on is broadly how to add small details to enrich your world building. Excuse me. Really nebulous topic. Like, this is the kind of thing that is really hard to package for the algorithm. Like, condensing down the idea of here's how you add small, rich details to make your world building feel more vibrant and alive. Trying to distill that into a title and a thumbnail that thousands of people want to click on. Really hard work. But for the members only content, it is perfect because small group of people, I know I can target it directly to you folks and be like, cool, here we go. We're going to learn something together and here's my process for doing it. So that's going to be our next non-diary video. And then looking forward to 2025 overall, I said previously that last year I'd hoped to do 3 Kickstarters this year, which now, current me, is like, that is absolutely insane. Knowing what I know now and in the kind of space that I'm in now, absolutely insane. I'd adjusted that at the start of the year to be like, oh, maybe I'll just do 1 Kickstarter, 2 Kickstarters, and now it's looking more likely that it will be a single Kickstarter this year. The cheat sheets Kickstarter for the revised 5e is going to be our only Kickstarter for the year, and that'll come out in the summer sometime. There's some work that I need to get done before we can do that, and then spend the rest of the year generally kind of being a little bit more chill and taking a little bit more rest, because it's been a lot. So my first kind of big goal, now that I'm back in work after a couple of weeks worth of break, is going to be rebuilding the website. So my current website is hosted through Wix, and has been hosted in Wix for a long time, like 6-ish years, and it's just not up to task. Wix is just not a good site. It's slow, it's clunky, the back end like really sucks, and I want to rebuild the site on something like Shopify. I'm 99% sure I'll use Shopify, mainly because Shopify has integrations with a lot of stuff. Like, you can integrate it with YouTube, you can integrate it with TTRPG. It's like, in terms of the site with the integrations with other platforms, Shopify seems to be the one. So we want to rebuild the site on Shopify and completely change my approach for how I've built it. So up until this point, the website has always just been a, hey, here's my website, here is my stuff, and kind of like directionless. And I've been doing a lot of work kind of starting today, my first day back, and for the next couple weeks, in really drilling down into what is the offering for the content that I have, and using that as the foundation to build the website on. So I have no idea what the website will look like yet. I'm still in the early stages of really figuring out like sort of the brand identity element of taking all of that and translating it into website stuff. But it is going really well. I'm learning a whole heap. Like, been reading a bunch of books, watching a bunch of video courses, and like stuff for web design and just general businessy things that ask you a whole bunch of questions. And as you kind of like go through those questions, you like reframe how you think about your own work, and it's really beneficial. And I'm really excited to see where the website ends up. So the website will take however long it takes, and as soon as the website is done, then I don't know whether you can see. No, it's on the shelf above. The shelf above my head, there is a special thing that I will be showing off when the website is done. That will hopefully happen around the same time. And then once all of that is done, then it'll be revised cheat sheet Kickstarter time. And I have been working away on that, and I'm very excited for it. Let me find a preview for you all. If I have one. If I have one. I definitely have one. It's just finding the damn thing. So there we go. So this is the notification page, the sign up page for the revised cheat sheets Kickstarter. So this is going to be going live over the summer. I'm going to drop a link in the chat if anyone wants to sign up to get notified on launch. I haven't shared this super widely publicly. I've posted about it on Blue Sky a couple times, but I haven't like really started the marketing campaign for it yet. So this is going to be the updated version of the class cheat sheets that I did back in 2019. It's been one of the most requested things from the last couple of years, people asking to make a version of these sheets for the 2024 version of the D&D rules. So there's going to be one for each of the 12 core classes, as well as one subclass, everything that's contained within the SRD. And the general format is we're going to have statement like character art, nice bold full color piece for one of our iconic characters, because that's something I've been working on over the last couple of years, is making sure that each class is represented by an iconic character. In the Barbarian's case, in our example here, we have Tograx, the Dragonborn Barbarian, and then the kind of features are represented through simple language text, and then sketch kind of illustrations representing that. So you can see in this kind of example work in progress image, you've got like a sketch of Tograx entering a rage, or like shrugging off a bunch of arrows for the unarmored defense, things like that. And there's going to be one for each of the classes, and then a whole bunch of other kind of accessibility aids to help you learn the game, the 2024 revised 5th edition, easier, and teach it to other people easier, because that's kind of where this whole thing started from. Was I was trying to teach new people to play the game, and it's really difficult to just hand them like a 300-page book and be like, cool, there you go, pick a class. I'm like, what's a class? Well, what is all of this? And they're flicking through all of the pages. So it's really beneficial to be like, cool, here are like just a few sheets of paper, which one looks coolest? Or here are some cards for some ancestries, which look the coolest. And then go from there and not have to rely. It's much less intimidating to do it in that format, I find, than slapping down a book and being like, which ones do you want? And now we have the iconic characters. As part of that, we can make some like spreads and some printouts for people to be able to like hand to the players and be like, here's a single sheet with like some summaries, and be like, choose from them. And then you don't even have to look at a big stack of paper. You can look at one thing and then get your sheets from that. And I think that it's going to be really useful for teaching the game and for folks learning the game as well. So that's the kind of big Kickstarter thing that I'll be doing for the rest of the year. And then once that is done, then I'm just doing like maintenance level of stuff for the rest of the year. No huge projects, because my body cannot handle it. But we're going to be doing more stuff for like Patreon. I want to start doing more little offerings for Patreon, because I've ended the SIDEQUEST magazine. I ended that back in February, March time, because kind of keeping up with that monthly schedule was just becoming untenable with the way my health was. I was just unable to keep up with the constant having to hit the monthly deadline. So we've instead changed out all the tiers. So Patreon is now predominantly just like $1, like just a way to support the channel, support me, and get a little bit of something in return. So I want to try and get into a habit of making a monster or a magic item to go on Patreon, at least 1 or 2 of them a month. Want to restart the newsletter, the email newsletter, once the website is all up and running, and offer some freebies on that, and just generally offer more free stuff, because then I don't feel the pressure. When it's free, I don't feel the pressure to have to make it to hit like a deadline or anything. So when my health is like ebbing and flowing, when I'm having like bad health times, I'm like, cool, I can step back, because what people are missing out on is free stuff. And it feels way less stressful than like, oh no, people are expecting this big product, or people are expecting X, Y, and Z. So that's the general plan for the rest of the year. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into the Psion. So this is brand new Unearthed Arcana that was released today. Like as I was making dinner, the little video from D&D popped up for the Psion class. This is the kind of mental magic class, and this will be, provided it does make it into print, this will be the first additional class that 5th edition has seen in a long time. I'm not even sure how long. When was Eberron released? Let's find out. Because the Publication history. Let's have a look. The very first instance of Unearthed Arcana, that was 2015. Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron, 2018. That feels like really, really late. That's much later than I remember it being. Damn. And then 2019 was Rising from the Last Wall. But I think it was Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron that had the first instance of Artificer. So that would have been 28, that's 7 years. So the first new class in 7 years, and only the second class to come out after the 12 core in 5th edition, which is a big deal. Like 5th edition, one of the big things that it has really needed, I think, and that a lot of people have been calling out for, is that those extra classes. And that is something that we have desperately wanted. Amber Hawk says, any of the mods here know how to get a link to the members only Discord without linking the Google account with my Discord account? That is a very good question. I can grab you a Discord link. No, I cannot, because that does not post. Hang on. That will get you into the mainline Discord. And then once you're in and have gone through the whole like onboarding thing, just give me a ping in off topic and I'll manually sort it for you after the stream. There's no problem. I kind of don't want a class bloat, but I'm really looking forward to a few more to keep it fresh. Exactly. I don't necessarily want tons of new classes, but I think that the idea of a new class every couple years, or just the idea that they are willing to add a new class, because I really was not expecting to get another class, and I was definitely not expecting to get the Scion, because psionics has been something that 5th edition has really struggled with. They've tried to do the Scion through Unearthed Arcana before and it went nowhere, and all the times that they've tried to introduce Scions through subclasses and stuff, there's always been like weird pushback and stuff like that on it. And I was not expecting to get the Scion in Unearthed Arcana as like the first new class for revised 5e, because obviously the Artificer was going to be the first one, to the point where I don't think it even really counts. So getting the Scion kind of blew my mind. So in Unearthed Arcana, inside, we've got the Scion, the first new class since the Artificer. The Scion weaves magic through the power of their mind. Love that. I love mentalist magic. There's a lot about that style of magic I like, both in pop culture and kind of broader fiction, but also within the context of D&D, where magic usually behaves a really specific way. Breaking out of that mold gives you the scope to do really interesting things narratively, which we'll probably talk about more as we go through this document. Subclasses. 4 subclasses provided. If you were to say to me, oh, what do you think we're going to get in terms of the next UA class, I wouldn't have guessed Scion. And then if I were to guess Scion, I wouldn't have guessed that we'd get 4 subclasses from the jump. This feels like a big thing, like a lot. Spells, a collection of spells, both familiar and new, enhance the options available for the Scions. And then wild talents also included a collection of feats that provide characters with a way to tap into their psionic powers. Backgrounds representing the connection to wild talents will be included with these feats in a future book if they become official. I think despite that caveat, we're going to see this become official. This feels like a lot of work to not see the Scion in some form in another book, especially given how pared down the kind of internal D&D team is these days compared to what it once may have been, I don't think that they would put all of this effort into writing out this class if they didn't have every intention of publishing it. So the wild talents, kind of these feats, really excited about those, and the idea that you can dip into psionic magic without going full psion, because that opens up such a wealth of options for other classes to take a little bit of psionic magic, and for all of these synergies to start happening between subclasses and main classes, and to start building more interesting, like, unique character archetypes through all of those combinations. Really excited to see where this goes. Usual caveat that this is playtest material, power level. The options you read here for the more or less powerful than the options in the 2024 Player's Handbook. If a design survives playtesting, adjust its power to the desirable level before publication. This means an option could be more or less powerful in its final form. And then the usual, here's how you give feedback. I do recommend, if you end up checking this out and playing it, do give feedback and fill in the survey, because those kinds of things are genuinely really helpful. Dev Vulcan, I am back. I'm doing good today. It is a good day. So we are on camera and we are on stream, and we're locked in. The brain fog is there, but we're still good. We're cracking on. Bob says, how long did it take for the Artificer to move from UA? That's a really good question. Let's have a look at the publication history on Eberron. Eberron Player's Guide, that was 2009. 2015 was the very first instance of the UA for 5th edition, and it took 3 years later before Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. I don't think it'll be that long before we see whatever the Scion is, if we're going to see the Scion. I really hope I hope they don't take the Scion away. I mean, yeah, you can just use the UA version. But the benefit of it being roped into full publication is that once it's in publication, they can then start using elements of it, especially like the feats and things, to start building on for other pillars of the game. And just in general, I want more classes. I don't necessarily want class bloat, but I would like maybe another 4 classes, somewhere in that ballpark. Honestly, I'd maybe take up to another 12. So just something to make it feel like the game is expanding from the player side, because for so often, yes, there is the subclasses, but for a long period of time prior to the 2024 kind of revision of 5th edition, 5e was feeling kind of stale in terms of like player focused material. That's why third-party publishers like myself were able to be so successful, because there was such a gap for us to play in. And I don't want to write myself out of the job, but I would love for them to come in and be like, cool, here is the 5th edition Commander. Oh, I would love that. I would love that so much, because it's hard. The Commander is a hard class. The Warlord, real hard class to make work in 5th edition, because it doesn't have the same kind of action economy as 4th edition. But we've got the Scion. I would love the Gunslinger to be split out into its own class. That is a really good point. Is the Gunslinger its own thing now? Because I can't remember what subclasses we got for the fighter. We did not get a Gunslinger. I don't want to see the Gunslinger as a fighter subclass. I want to see the Gunslinger as its own class, because I think it deserves it, and I think there's some really cool specialized mechanics and specialized dice system you can do with the Gunslinger. And if WotC don't do it, I will do it, and it will be awesome when I have the spoons. More classes equals better, but as long as they're addressing a lot of the gaping holes in the types of fantasy characters you can play in D&D without having to resort to a homebrew, the more the better. Exactly. They need to be making characters that you can't currently easily make, which is why I'm really pleased to see mind magic. That's telekinesis, Kyle. Cool. So the Psion, the Master of Psionic Power. Also, for anyone watching, as we're going through this, I will be reading a lot of this stuff out. That is principally for you folks that are watching this mostly by listening and who haven't got me up on their main monitor. So if I'm not reading it out, you've got no idea what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm reading the stuff out. It's not because I have to read it out loud. So Psions are masters of psionic power. They weave magic and extraordinary powers through the power of their mind. A lot of power in that sentence. They develop their minds as fonts of power that manifest spells and grow stronger over the course of their adventuring careers. So you can find everything you need to play one of these psionic powerhouses in the next few sections. Too many instances of the word power in that opening sentence and paragraph. Bends my brain. What is a Psion? Psions are spellcasters who use their innate mental powers to gain extraordinary abilities and unleash magic of their minds. Psions and their magical, sometimes called psionics, can trace their history back to the appendix of the first edition of the Player's Handbook, and a psionics using class first appeared in the Complete Psionics Handbook in 91. We don't care about the history. Give us the juice. Cool. Core psionics trait. So their primary ability is intelligence. They get d6 hit dice per level. They have intelligence and wisdom saving throw proficiencies. They get 2 skill proficiencies in Arcana, Insight, Intimidation, Investigation, Medicine, Perception, and Persuasion. They get simple weapon proficiency, no armor training, and then they can choose a spear, 2 daggers, and a light crossbow. 20 bolts, a case, a Dungeoneer's pack, and 6 gold, or 50 gold. Let's jump over, and I want to open up a couple of the classes to compare this to. So I want to compare it primarily to the Warlock and the Wizard. We'll dip into the Sorcerer a little bit as well. So Warlocks get more HP. So let's go primarily Wizard and Sorcerer, and we'll check in on the Warlock from time to time as well. I appreciate the reading. I have you up on my phone while I'm doing the software dev work. Your time in the US means I can't give you my full attention, sadly. That is absolutely fine. I assume that most people, like I do when I'm watching a stream, have me up in the background somewhere, not like glued to the screen giving me full attention. So it's important that I am reading what's going on in the screen. It's why I always read out the full comment when I'm addressing the comment, because obviously you all that are here now can read that comment, but you all lovely people in the land of the future that are watching this as a VOD, if YouTube hasn't populated that chat yet and I just answer comments without reading them off first, you have no idea what the context is. And as a viewer, I hate that. I hate when I'm watching the VOD of a stream and people are responding to comments without reading the comments, because I have no idea what the comment was, and you lose a lot of that context. And it's a real bugbear of mine. Bob says, I need to homebrew a water seeker, a utility magic-based subclass that specializes in locating water in deserts using traditional techniques sublimated by magic. I like that. Feels very Dark Sun to me, which psionics would fit in really well with. I like how they're like, we are not doing Dark Sun, and then they keep throwing in little things where I'm like, you could be doing Dark Sun though. I really like ultra specific subclasses where you go, this is a very narrow idea, very narrow core fantasy for what it wants to do. And I'm going to design absolutely everything around that. And unless you want to do this very specific thing, don't bother playing this subclass. I'd much rather that than a really wide subclass that kind of becomes almost like its own version of a class. I feel like several of the subclasses, especially in 2014, stepped on the toes of the potential for full classes. So like, oh, it would be really nice to have X, Y, or Z class, but a lot of that core fantasy is already taken up by this subclass. So you don't end up with a full class doing all of this awesome stuff because some of that core fantasy is taken up by some of the stuff that this subclass does. So I prefer my subclasses to be really narrow in scope than like really wide. So I like that. Cool. Waterfinder. So let's have a look. Weapon proficiencies. Simple weapons. Same as Sorcerer and Wizard and Warlock. Sorcerer and Wizard, neither of them get armor training. Excuse me. Intelligence and Wisdom. Intelligence and Wisdom, very similar to a Wizard. Arcana, Insight. Medicine, same as Wizard. So in terms of core traits, very similar to a Wizard. I don't know. Intelligence and Wisdom probably makes sense in terms of the traits. I think I would quite have liked Intelligence and Charisma for like the Mentalist stats, like the mental magic, because a lot of psionics often manifests as like influencing people's minds with your magic, and I would like that in charisma as a saving throw, not necessarily as the primary ability, because I don't want another charisma caster, but very small detail. So becoming a scion, gaining all the traits in the core scion table, and then you gain their level 1 features, which are listed in the table. There's a multi-class scion. You gain the hit points die from the core scion traits table and gain their level 1 features, which are listed in the table. See the multi-classing rules in the player's handbook to determine your available spell slots. So at level 1 you get spellcasting. You've learned how to channel magical energy using the power of your mind. See the player's handbook for the rules on spellcasting. The information below details how you use those rules with the Scion spells which appear in the Scion spell list later in this class's description. You know 2 cantrips of your choice, Minor Illusion and Telekinetic Fling, are recommended. I like this kind of new approach of recommending cantrips and spells. It's a nice accessibility feature for new players who might be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of spells that there are in this goddamn game. Whenever you game a Scion level, you can replace one of your cantrips with this feature with another Scion cantrip of your choice. Always nice, keeps it flexible throughout the course of the campaign. I don't know many GMs that wouldn't be open to just allowing you to change cantrips basically whenever you want, within reason, not necessarily on a rest, but being like, oh, when we get to town, if we've got a week of downtime, I want to swap out a cantrip. There's very little consequence to that. When you reach levels 10 and 14, you learn another cantrip of your choice, as shown in the cantrips table. And then spell slots, we're going full Pep She here. The Scion features table shows how many spell slots you have to cast your level 1+ spells. You gain all expended spell slots when you finish a long rest. So the first thing I want to do is I want to compare the number of spell slots they have to a wizard, because the wizard's the Goldilocks of. So at level 1 they get 2 first level spells. It looks like they might get the same amount. 4 3s, 2 2s and 2 1s. 4 3s, 2 2s and 2 1s. So they get the same number of slots in the base table as a wizard. Then they have a number of prepared spells. At level 20, a wizard gets 25. At level 20, a scion gets 22. so they get slightly fewer prepared spells in total. But as they advance, it's broadly equivalent. So they get mostly, they get a similar number of spells. Not such a difference that I think it would really make a difference. They get one fewer cantrip. So I think that that's probably a worthwhile trade-off when you don't have to have verbal and somatic components. Or material. Yeah, verbal and material. Welcome in, Lexisaurus. So, where are we? Prepared spells of level 1+. To start, choose 4 level 1 silence spells. Charm Person, Command, Dissonant Whisper, and Mage Armor are recommended. Then the number of spells on your list increases. You gain Scion levels as shown in the prepared spells column of the Scion features table. Whenever that number increases, choose additional spells until the number of spells on your list matches the number in the table. Usual spell stuff. Changing the prepared spells, change them. Whenever you gain a Scion level, you can replace one spell on your list with another Scion spell of an eligible level. Intelligence is your spellcasting, and then psionic spellcasting. This is the bit that we really care about, and the bit that I think will make psionics the chosen class. When you cast a Scion spell, that spell doesn't require a verbal or material component, even if the spell indicates verbal or material in its component's entry, except material components that are consumed by the spell or have a cost specified in that spell. That's really important for things like Revivify or Resurrection, a lot of the bring people back from the dead. Wish as well. A lot of the more powerful magics require material components that are consumed by the spell or have a cost. Or have a cost specified by the spell. That's interesting because there are some spells that have a material component that is, you require a material component worth X, but you can use it multiple repeated times, in which case if those fall on the Scion list, they're still going to have the material component. Interesting. So at level 1, you get the Psionic Power ability. You harbor a wellspring of psionic energy within yourself. It's represented by your psionic energy dice. Your Scion level determines the dice size and number of energy dice that you have, as shown in the energy die and number of dice columns in your psionic features table. They're used to enhance or fuel certain psionic features. You start with 2 such features: telekinetic propel and telepathic connection, each of which is detailed below. So propel, as a bonus action, choose one large or smaller creature other than you that you can see within 30 feet of yourself, and then roll 1 psionic energy die. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed or pulled, your choice, up to a number of feet straight away from yourself equal to 5 times the number rolled. The die is expended only if the target fails the saving throw. That's pretty cool. Let's have a look at the die. So it starts at a d6. So between 5 and 30 feet. That's quite cool. Friends can willingly choose to fail saving throws in revised 5e explicitly. So this is a really nice option, especially as a bonus action, to do a fastball special with a friendly character. Your barbarian friend goes sprinting past you, finishes their movement. You use your bonus action to mind bullet them up to 30 feet closer to the enemy. I like that. Disappointing that it's only rolling 1 psionic energy dice. It would be nice if you could roll all 4 and God launch something. Maybe that is something that you get to do as you go up. In classes. I have to read through to find that, but just as a feature, I really like that. Telepathic connection. You have telepathy with a range of 5 feet. As a bonus action, you can expend 1 psionic dice and roll it. For a number of minutes equal to your psion level, the range of your telepathy increases by a number of feet equal to 10 times the number rolled. So again, first level, you're going to be somewhere between 10 and 60 feet for telepathy for a number of minutes equal to your psion level, so 1 minute. That is very useful. I kind of wish that was just a flat scaling telepathy of at level 1 you start with just a flat range and the radius expands, because that feels like a lot of rolling for a very inconsistent, like in the situations where you need telepathy, where you're like, oh, it would be really useful to brain connect to my buddy over there, having to rely on the randomness of the dice. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's spicy, and we love spice. Not as simple as it could be as just being like, cool, you have telepathy at 5 feet. At level 10, it increases to X, and going up like that. So it's not as spicy. Doesn't mean it's not. That's a good thing or a bad thing. Just lacks that option wouldn't be as spicy. I don't know how I feel about that yet. So another level 1 feature, subtle telekinesis. You know the mage hand cantrip and can cast it without somatic components. You can make the spectral hand invisible when you cast it. Instantly I'm like, so a lot of the ways that a trickster cleric or an illusionist wizard would want to do stuff, this might be a better class for that, because a lot of the ways in which you do shenanigans can be undone by the manifestation of spells, so the somatic components especially, and just not having those could make this I've got a feeling this will be a really popular class. Cybear says the Great Old One Warlock does not need the smack part versus the material requirement that some Psion has. Oh, it's way too early to be losing the ability to speak. Yeah, the interplay between, or the contrast between the Great Old One Warlock and the Psion. It'll be interesting to see how multi-classing and the combinations of multi-classing options you can get from the addition of a new class. That's the thing that excites me the most about the addition of a brand new class. I say brand new to 5th edition, not brand new to the game in general. That's what excites me the most, because suddenly we have another factor of multiplication for our possibilities of combinations of classes. And what does a Psion barbarian look like? What does a Psion wizard look like? Why would you do that? But what does it look like? And there's a bunch of interesting interplay there that I'm excited for people who are much more sweaty in their application of the rules than me to dive into, and then I can just learn about them. So at level 2 you get psionic discipline. You learn further psionic techniques that are fueled by your psionic energy dice. You gain 2 disciplines of your choice, such as expanded awareness and id insinuation. Disciplines are described in the psionic discipline options. So right, so that is a separate thing, like Warlock's Invocations. The framing of the start of that, you learn further psionic techniques, made me think this was building on another feature, but it's not. It is its own distinct feature. You can use only one discipline each turn and only once per turn unless otherwise noted in one of those options. Whenever you gain a Scion level, you can replace one of your discipline options with one you don't know. You gain two more options. So this is 2 more Psionic discipline options at level 10, and 2 more at Scion level 17. So you get 2 at level 2, 4 at level 10, 6 at level 17. So let's jump straight through to the Psionic disciplines and read those. So that's Psionic disciplines. So we're starting with 2 of these at level 2. So biofeedback is the first one. When you cast a Scion spell from the Necromancy or Transmutation school, you can expend 1 Psionic energy dice and roll it. You gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. Fine, temporary hit points, always nice. I don't think it's going to be world altering, but might keep you alive for 1 extra hit at a low level. When you cast a Scion spell from the Conjuration or Evocation school, and a creature you can see succeeds on a saving throw against the spell, you can expend 1 Psionic energy dice and roll it. The creature takes psychic damage equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. So making sure that you're always doing a little pip of damage no matter what. That could be really useful if you're in combat with an enemy spellcaster and they've got concentration up, forcing them to make con saves even if they're saving against other stuff all the time because you're dealing damage to them could be useful. Devilish Tongue. When you take the influence action, you can expend 1 Psionic energy die, roll it, and add the number rolled to any ability check. Just really, really useful in out of combat situations and potentially in combat. I think influence can occur in combat, but that's just really useful. I think that a lot of Scions are going to be more roleplay focused, and I love seeing options that help with that. Ego Whip. When a creature provokes an attack of opportunity by leaving your reach, you can take a reaction roll to roll 1 Psionic energy die and force the creature to make an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, the target speed is reduced by 10 feet and it subtracts the number rolled from its next damage roll that it makes before the end of its next turn. The die is expended only if the target fails the saving throw. Quite cool, like interacting with other creatures outside of your turn. Engaging in the action economy like that is always nice. Reducing enemy movement is quite nice. Reducing their damage could come in really clutch depending on what you roll. Again, I would like to see the option to expend multiple Psionic energy dice for this, because in all of these so far you've only been able to expend 1, and you have a pool that begins with 4 and goes up to 12. Like, I want to be able to throw down 12 dice and be like, boom, you do no, like, this godlike being does no damage because I've ego whipped them with my entire day's worth of damage. Walking, the personal update is at the start of the stream, like the first 20-25 minutes ish. I don't know, time is a construct. In the VOD, I'll timestamp it so that it's clear where the channel update starts and the dive into the Scion starts. Channel update ends, Scion starts. You know what I mean? Next we have Expanded Awareness. When you take the search action, you can expend 1 Scion energy dice, roll it, and add the number rolled to any ability check. Again, just flat, generally useful. Id Insinuation. This one's got a cool name. When you cast a Scion spell from the enchantment or illusion school that forces a creature to make a saving throw, you can expend 2 Psionic energy dice and roll 1 Psionic energy dice. Okay, that's interesting. One target of the spell that you can see subtracts the number rolled from its saving throw against the spell. So we are starting to see some play that some cost more than others. That is cool. When you make an attack roll against the creature and miss, this is now inerrant aim. Actually, let's stick on id insinuation for a second. So when you cast the silence spell from the enchantment or illusion school that forces the creature to make a saving throw, you can expend 2 energy dice, roll 1, and the target subtracts the roll number from their saving throw against the spell. That could be pretty good. I can't immediately think off the top of my head what like baller spells there are in illusion or enchantment. Enchantment is going to be the one, isn't it? Enchantment. Let's have a look at some enchantment spells. Yeah, enchantment was always going to be the one. Yeah, that's charm. Of course it is. So that could be huge. Like, charms dominates, subtracting up to, so we're going to be starting at a d6, so up to 6, and it moves up to a 12. So subtracting maybe up to 12 from a creature's saving throw against charm could be enormous, especially in the ability to just shut down a fight before it even starts. And if, let's have a look at Dominate and see what Dominate's got going on in terms of its components, verbal and somatic. So we double check against our Psion class, Psionic spellcasting. So anything that includes verbal or material, so you'd only have to speak to be able to dominate them. And if you took a dip into Sorcerer, how far into Sorcerer would you have to dip to get Settle Spell? I can't remember. Meta Magic is a level 2 dip. Sorcerer and Scion combos is gonna make. It's gonna be powerful. Subtle casting. You still need to make the Jedi hand wave to dominate. You don't have to use the. Is it somatic that you don't use? Oh yeah, it's the Jedi hand wave, not the verbal bits. So yeah, you just have to Jedi hand wave. Got it the wrong way around. I thought you still had to speak, but no, it's just the Jedi hand wave that you have to do. But yeah, that could be huge. Right, inerrant aim. When you make an attack roll against a creature and miss, you can roll 1 psionic energy die and add the number rolled to the attack roll, potentially turning a miss into attack. Just really useful all the time. It's pretty solid baseline, mid-tierish. Like, over the course of a campaign, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of it. Isn't immediately flashy. Solid. Psionic backlash. Immediately after a creature you can see hits you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to expend 1 energy dice, roll 2 energy dice, and subtract the number rolled on each die from the total. In addition, you can force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes psychic damage equal to the amount rolled on the 2 energy dice. These are very wordy abilities. My brain is really struggling to pass a lot of them. So you take a reaction, you expend 1 energy dice. So if you had 4, it'd go down to 3, but you roll 2 of them, and then subtract the total of those 2 rolled from the total of the attack. So if they rolled a 19 to hit and you rolled a 7, you'd subtract that. You'd end up with a 12 to hit, which would almost certainly miss you. Then in addition, you can force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes psychic damage equal to the amount rolled on the 2. So yeah, I understand it. It's just a lot of words. It's the differences between 1 dice and the 2 dice within the same ability. It takes a moment to, like, for my brain to catch up. Psionic guards. At the start of the turn, you can expend 1 psionic die Until the start of your next turn, you have immunity to charmed and frightened conditions, an advantage on intelligence saving throws. If you are charmed or frightened when you use this discipline, the condition ends on you. Huge. Just instant locking out of having to interact with a lot of powerful shutdown mechanics. Love that. When you use psionic guards, you can also use a different psionic discipline this turn. That's nice. Then we've got Swift Precognition. When you cast a Scion spell from the Abjuration or Divination School with a casting time of an action, you can expend the number of psionic energy dice to change the casting time to a bonus action for this casting. The number of dice equals 1 plus the spell's level. Pretty cool. Being able to break the usual bounds of how many spells you can cast within a turn. Love that. And then Tactical Mind. When you take the steady action, you can expend 1 psionic energy dice, roll it, and add that number rolled to the ability check. That could be huge depending on how much WotC decide to lean into the study action. Presently, they have not done a lot to support the study action. I like the study action a lot in theory. It's something that I will be incorporating a lot into my own homebrew, my own published materials, because I think the study action as a way to, on the fly in combat, be able to determine information about monster, change aspects of the fight, really engaging, really interesting. But presently, WotC have not supported it in the way that I would like, and the usefulness of Tactical Mind is really going to depend on how much they do support in the future or how much your GM is actually using it. Excuse me. So that's a really conditional one. So those are the psionic disciplines. Pretty cool stuff. A lot of kind of roll 2, get 1, roll 1, get 2 that confused me on first read, but pretty cool stuff overall. We're only into level 2 of the class. So the next feature is Psionic Modes. You have honed your psionic powers to act as both a shield and a weapon in battle. As a bonus action, you can choose one of the following modes, granting you certain benefits for 1 minute or until you use this feature again. In attack mode, I love that it's just attack mode and defense mode. Beautifully simple. In attack mode, damage from your weapon attacks, psion spells, and psion features ignore resistance to psychic damage. That's tasty. In addition, when you roll damage for a spell, you can expend 1 psionic energy dice to re-roll a number of damage dice up to your intelligence modifier, and you must use these new rolls. Really nice. No fancy names. Attack or protect. Exactly. Defense mode. You have resistance to psychic damage. In addition, when you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can take a reaction to expend 1 energy dice, roll it, and add the number rolled to the saving throw, potentially turning a failure into a success. Just really great. I like that a lot. You can use this feature twice and then regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Only using it twice kind of sucks, because you are already kind of limited by the number of dice that you have. You do go up to 12 at level 20, which is kind of a lot. So I would probably have gated this feature to limited to proficiency bonus, because I don't think that you are going to see someone... I mean, you might see someone use it 6 times at a higher level, but if they do, then you're either missing out on 6 like attacks that would have hit them that now don't, which could happen over the course of a day through just natural rolling, but it's also burning their resources. Or in terms of attacks, bypassing the resistance to psychic damage, which isn't very common. So if it is a single monster, not a groundbreaking change to like overall balance, and allowing them to re-roll the damage dice. Again, they could have naturally rolled the better result anyway. So I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, allowing this to happen a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus would be the worst thing in the world. So level 3, you get your Scion subclass. At level 4, you get your ability score improvement or your feats. And then at level 5, you get Psionic Restoration. When you finish a short rest, you can regain expended psionic energy dice, but no more than a number equal to half the number of dice. What? But no more than a number equal to half your number of dice. Round down. Is that the number of dice you currently have? The number of dice that you could possibly have? That feature definitely needs to be reworded. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Yeah, I assume it's no more than a number equal to half of the total number of dice. So at level 2, you could regain a maximum of 2 dice because you have a maximum of 4. So on a short rest, you could get 2 of them back. That's how I assume that rule is meant to work, but it's not incredibly clear. At level 7, you have the Psionic Surge. When you roll initiative, you can expend one of your hit point dice. That feels... What? You can expend one of your hit point dice and regain 1 expended use of psionic modes. What were the psionic modes? Attack mode or defense mode. Okay, so I'm getting the feeling that there's lots of little dials on this class that you can get and lots of little trackers, and all of them are named basically the same thing. Psionic mode, psionic discipline, they're all psionic something, and until you're really dialed in on the class, it's going to be very difficult to remember which one is which and what the different ones are. And I think that some stronger naming would help here. So having the psionic modes or psionic disciplines, one of those needs to not have psionic in the name, so that when you have Psionic Surge, again, too much psionic. Like, I understand the inclination to be like, slap psionic in front of absolutely everything because this is the Psion class, but it adds just even if it's just a small barrier, any barrier to passing this information is a problem, because you want to be able to like immediately understand what's going on here. And again, I assumed on first read that this hit point dice thing was a mistake, because this is the first time hit points have been even mentioned as a mechanic within this class, and it's at level 7. So when you roll initiative, you can expend one of your hit point dice and regain an expended use of psionic modes. Weird pulling in of resource there. Excuse me. In addition, after you roll one or more psionic energy dice, I really want to see psionic energy dice renamed. It's too wordy. Like, mind bullets. That's what I want to see them called. In addition, after you roll one or more psionic energy dice, you can expend one of your hit dice and treat any roll of 1, 2, or 3 on those In addition, after you roll one or more psionic energy dice, you can expend one of your hit point dice and treat any roll of 1, 2, or 3 on those psionic energy dice as a 4. When? Is it just any time I'm rolling psionic energy dice? So if I'm rolling psionic energy dice as part of one of my psionic disciplines from level 7, can I then also expend a hit point dice to change that psionic dice, the roll of that, from a 1, 2, or 3 into a 4? I appreciate the resource management and the ability to burn what is essentially your health reserves to overcharge your mind. I really like that fantasy that it's creating, but I do think it needs a clarification pass on the language. At level 19, you get the epic boon. They recommend energy resistance, and then at level 20, you get enkindled life force once per turn. When you expend a psionic energy die and roll it For a Psion feature or psionic discipline, you can expend 2 of your hit point dice and roll 2 additional psionic energy dice and add the numbers rolled to the total. See, it's just too wordy. Like, way too wordy. Hydra says, that feature feels like you can use your body to power your mind, but it needs to be written more clear. Exactly. And Dev Walking says, just finished watching the personal update. Lovely to hear, getting back into it. Super excited for the mini details video. My current strat is to add occasionally anachronisms to make things stick. Love anachronisms. Love any time the players are like, wait, that's not how this thing was. And I'm like, realism. So let's have a look at the spell list. I'm not going to go super in depth in this because there's so many spells. But I do want to hit some of the highlights. Let's have a look. So at level 1, with Dissonant Whispers, love that. Detect Magic, always really useful. Comprehend Languages, really useful. Mage Armor, Silent Image, Sleep, Hideous Laughter. Pretty solid list. Featherfall, excellent. Level 2, Enhance Ability, Enlarge, Reduce, Enthrall. There's a lot of kind of mental magic theming throughout the magic in their spell list, which seems obvious, but it is nice to see. Magic Mouth, things like that. Mind Spike, Mirror Image, Phantasmal Force, those kind of things. Silence, really, really useful. C is Concentration, R is Ritual, M. What is M? Let me find Identify, because I want to know what that special tag is. So M must be that has a material component that has a specific cost, because Identify has a pill with 100 GP. Cool. Animating the Dead. Oof. Necromancy with psionics isn't where my mind goes to first. That's a frightening in-universe combination. Someone psionically using necromancy. Gross. Fear, great. Clairvoyance, hypnotic pattern. Intellect Fortress. Interested to see what that is. Summon Astral Entity and Telekinetic Crush. I'm excited to see what the Psychic Lance. Oh, I love Psychic Lance. Phantasmal Killer was an obvious choice. Dimension Door, freedom of movement, it's all good. Flying. This feels like a pretty good greatest hits spell list. The kind of spells. There's nothing jumping out at me as being missing from a like utility caster, like a control. Yeah, exactly, a controller spell list. Like, obviously there is no fireball, and all of the like the basic bitch casters are gonna be like, there's no fireball, spell list sucks. But I think fireball is obviously a very impressive spell, very useful, but there's so many spells on here that will be put to incredible use through the ability to just be like, you will do this now. I don't have to speak, I don't have to use the material components, I'm just being like, I'm gonna wave my hands and you are gonna do this thing, which is gonna be really cool. Tissy says, hello, glad I could catch the stream while working on cosplay. Welcome in. Bob says, using the Metamorph subclass looks like you can create Mercer from Prototype. Yeah, I was watching some of the preview videos before, and they mentioned the Metamorph options, and they seemed really cool. Getting Dominate, Maze, Mind Blank, Powered Stun, getting Powered Kill. Just any spell list that gets powered kill. Love that. Psychic Scream. Oh. So far, I'm a very happy chappy with what I'm seeing here. So let's jump to the spells, and then, excuse me, we'll do spells, we'll do feats, and then we'll do subclasses. Spells are presented in alphabetical Spells are presented in alphabetical order. We are going to start blitzing through these because I am very conscious of time now. General updates. Returning spells have been refined and brought into line with the revisions from the 2024 book. New spells in this article include Summon Astral Entity and Telekinetic Crush. They add new options for various classes' spell list. The Psion also receives a unique cantrip, Telekinetic Fling. The Psychic Lance. This spell has more guidance around using a creature's name to target it, and then Tasha's Mind Whip. The spell now restricts only the target's ability to make opportunity attacks on a failed saving throw. So Intellect Fortress. For the duration, one willing creature you can see within has resistance to psychic damage, as well as advantage on Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. Fine. Like, I'm sure there'll be plenty of uses for it. Doesn't blow me away. Psychic Scream, though. Unleash the power of your mind to blast the intellect of up to 10 creatures of your choice that you can see within range. The creatures that have an intelligence score of 2 or lower are unaffected. Each target must make an intelligence save. On a failed save, they take 14d6 psychic damage and have the stunned condition. On a successful save, they take half as much damage and are not stunned. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points by this damage, the head explodes, assuming it has one. Yes! Honestly, any rider that's like, if this takes you to 0 damage, bonkers nonsense ensues, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things. At the end of each of its turn, the stunned target repeats the save, ending the condition on itself. Honestly, Psychic Scream, absolutely love it. I wish that it was a lower level than level 9, even if it had less damage, just so you could pop heads more frequently. I love that. And it is available to bards, sorcerers, and warlocks, so meta magic and Psychic Scream would be disgusting. Rowlotham Psychic Lance. I don't actually know how you're supposed to say that name, but the Psychic Lance. Psychic Lance. You shoot and unleash a shimmering lance of psychic power from your forehead at a creature that you can see within range. You can utter, alternatively, you can utter a creature's name. A pseudonym, title, or nickname doesn't work. If the name target is within range, it becomes the spell's target even if you can't see it. If the name target isn't within range, or you use an invalid name, the lance dissipates without effect. Right. If the name target is within range, 120 feet, it becomes the spell's target even if you can't see it. The target must make an intelligence saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 7d6 psychic damage and has the incapacitated condition until the start of your next turn. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage only. I could see some really interesting applications for this. Not only because I absolutely adore the concept of true names narratively, but immediately as I'm reading that, I'm like, okay, let's imagine a Star Wars Senate situation where you're like, I'm pretty sure the Emperor is a senator, but I don't know who they are. So I am going to Psychic Lance their true name in this chamber and see who becomes incapacitated and takes brain damage. And that kind of situation. Just there's a lot of leg to this lance, and I love it. I think that's another one that will be a lot of fun. And yeah, the more I read of this, the more I can see, the more I foresee a Psion in my future, be it as a player or in my next campaign that I run. Summon Astral Entity. You call forth the spirit of a psionic entity. It manifests in an unoccupied space that you can see within range and uses the psionic spirit stat block. When you cast the spell, choose crystal entity, ectoplasmic entity, or ghostly entity. That's what I was just about to ask. I was like, what is a psionic entity? I guess it's a crystal, a ghost, or... Had to really resist the urge to say jizz ghost then. And I'm just going to say it. The creature resembles an astral entity of that kind, which determines certain details in its stat block. The creature displays when it drops to 0 hit points, or when the spell ends. The creature is an ally to you and your allies. In combat, the creature shares your initiative count with the usual summoned grab. Let's have a look at its AC is 11 plus the spell's level, which is 3. So that's 14. 16 for the crystal. HP 40 plus 10 for each spell level above 3. 30 feet speed. Fly for the ghost. Immune to psychic damage. Gets dark vision. Gets deep speech and telepathy. Incorporeal passage. It can move through other creatures and objects as if they're difficult terrain. If they're stopping them, deal damage. Usual cool stuff. And then gets 3 different types of attacks. Crystal Strike is a melee hit. Ectoplasmic Splash is the ectoplasmic entity only. It's a ranged attack roll, bonus equal to your spell attack modifier. That's psychic damage. And then whether you hit or miss, each creature in a 5-foot emanation originating from and including the target has its speed reduced by 5 feet until the end of the next turn. I like that a lot. And then the Ephemeral Ray is a 120-foot ranged attack for psychic damage. Then the reaction is a Shard Swarm, crystal form only. Spirit is hit by a melee attack and it halves the damage and then teleports to an unoccupied space. Makes me feel like the crystal is really the option that you take. Like, it's got higher AC, it does a strike, and can take half damage and teleport around. Like, it's a tonky boy, especially for level 3. A level 3 spell. Bob says, I can see this. The name is the one the target acknowledges themselves as. Bruce Wayne as Batman. And you said Bruce, nothing happens, but Batman and Bruce will get affected. Yeah, you can play around with a lot of like name stuff like that. I will probably, when it comes to Psychic Lance, have to have a discussion with my players about how we're going to handle it in terms of, does it have to be a creature's like given name or their true name? Probably given name, and I may homebrew a Ubermensch version of Psychic Lance for true names, using the framework of this spell as a starting point for a kind of like true name spell. Then we come to Mind Whip. Psychically lash out one creature. Make an intelligence save or take 3d6 psychic damage and can't take attacks of opportunity. Moreover, on its next turn, it can either take an action or a bonus action, but not both. Fine. Telekinetic Crush. You create a field of crushing telekinetic force in a 30-foot cube. Each creature, and this is only level 3, each creature in that area makes a strength saving throw. On a failed save, takes 5d6 force damage and has the prone condition. Whew. That's tasty. That's really tasty. Not nearly as much damage as a fireball, but a bigger area. No, not a bigger area. It's only a 30-foot cube, so smaller area. But doing some force damage. Way fewer things have resistance to force damage. So if you know you're fighting something that has fire resistance, immediately you're going to be doing much more damage. And giving them the prone condition. I like that. I like that a lot. And then the telekinetic fling cantrip. You brandish the ammunition used to cast this spell and fire it at a creature within range using psionic energy. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d10 force damage and the ammunition is destroyed. Wake up. New Eldritch Blast just dropped. So you only need a 1 copper piece valued piece of ammunition, which honestly, for how people track ammunition, I see most tables just being like, yes, you can just cast this without having to track anything. Just like just use a copper coin. Just take a copper piece out of your inventory. That's probably the much easier way to do this. Or spend like 10 gold at the start of the campaign and never worry about it again. 1d10 force damage is nuts. Because Eldritch Blast. Eldritch Blast is force damage, right? Yeah, it's 1d10 force damage, and then 2 beams at level 5, 3 beams at level 10. And this increases. So Eldritch Blast still has utility because it is multiple beams. Meaning you can direct the beams at different targets. But it is really nice to see another cantrip that is kind of on the same level as Eldritch Blast and not have Eldritch Blast just be the miles away clear winner for the best cantrip. Scions are eating good. I really like this. I like this a lot. Feats. Next, this section presents 10 new feats. These are in the wild talent category. What is wild talent category? There's categories? I have not retained any information about feats. So we're going to have a look at the feats from the player's handbook and see what categories they had, because I do not remember them. We've gone past player's handbook. Source category? No. Tags? Tags doesn't feel right. These feats are in the wild talent category. What is that? What do you mean? Because no, I guess the category, it's got to be like origin feat or general feat, right? So oh, there we go. Wild talent feat. Prerequisite, can't have another wild talent feat. That'll be what it is. So you only get one of these. Cool. If I'd just read like 2 sentences down, I'd have been fine. Also, you can use magical ammunition. Telekinetically fling an arrow of dragon slayer. Oh my god, yeah, you can. Let's reread that with that in mind. You brandish the ammunition used to cast the spell and fire it at a creature within range. Make a range spell. It does just say the target takes 1d10 and the ammunition is destroyed. So that will probably need some clarification on how it interacts with flinging magical ammunition, because it doesn't say whether the ammunition would do any additional damage based on any magical properties it has or anything like that. Really good catch. Wild talent feats. Atmokinesis. You gain the following benefits. Lightning Jolt. Once per turn, when you cast a spell or hit with an attack roll and deal bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, or psychic damage, you can change the damage type to lightning damage. Nice. So you could be, given that you get telekinetic fling. Oh no, that's force damage, not psychic damage. I'm sure there'll be other ways. Psionic talent. You know the shock and grasp cantrip. You also always have the fog cloud spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you gain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast it using any spell slots you have of the appropriate level. When you cast these spells, they require no verbal or material components, and the intelligent wisdom or charisma in your spellcasting ability for them, yada yada yada. When you reach level 3, you can always cast Gust of Wind. So it turns you into a lightning boy. Atmokinesis. You are Storm, basically. I like that. I sense that there's going to be a real, like, Mutants X-Force vibe going through these wild talent feats. Goop says, "Oh, post-football bad time, Anto. Welcome, Goop. There's nothing that will be spoilers here for you this evening." Biokinesis. You gain the following benefits: bend life energy. When you cast when a spell you cast restores the hit points to a creature, you can roll 1d4 and add the number rolled to the total hit points restored. You use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Useful, just general, be a bit of a better healer feat. And then the Psionic Talent. You know the Spare the Dying cantrip, and you also always have the Healing Word spell prepared. Cast it once without a spell slot, and regain the ability to cast it in this way when you finish a long rest. Always cast it with spell slots. When you cast these, they require no verbal or material components into yada yada yada, and then get Arcane Vigor spell. So Biokinesis is fine. Just make your healer a little bit more of a healer. Turn someone else into a bit of a healer. It's fine. How are you? Miss you. I'm okay. I miss you too. Claire Sentience. God, some of these names are a real struggle for my adult tired brain to read. You gain the following benefits: minor foreknowledge. When you take the search action, you can give yourself advantage on any ability check made as part of that action. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regain after a long rest. That's nice. It's going to really depend on the kind of campaign that you're running for how often you're going to be doing searching. Psionic Talent, you gain guidance. Guidance is always useful, but I feel like if you are going to take guidance, you are going to take guidance at level 1. You also always have Detect Evil and Good spell prepared. You cast it once without a spell slot. Also, if you've got the guidance cantrip, why wouldn't you just use the guidance cantrip whenever you're using the search action? Right? Like, have I gone mad? Like, that is the thing that you could do, right? Guidance. It's just a D20 test, isn't it? Yeah, any ability check. Oh, it's ability check, not skills. The skills count. See, I'm not clued in enough to the 2024 rules in my brain yet to remember what is and isn't specific verbiage. So maybe it's useful. Cryokinesis. Turn you into Iceman from the X-Men. Once per turn, when you cast a spell or hit someone with an attack, you can turn the damage type into cold damage. It's fine. You know, Ray of Frost, Armor of Agathis, and Ice Knife, and you can cast them swapping out. Yeah, you cast them once for free. Usually regular spells, slots, finish long rest. Same as has been in all of the others. It's fine. I feel like these choose a damage type, swap to another damage type, get a couple of spells are fine. They're not the most exciting ones. I think that we're going to get into some of the more exciting ones. Again, empath. Emotional sense is one of the benefits. When you take the influence action, you can give yourself advantage on any ability check made as part of that action. And then you always have charm person prepared. Again, this isn't something that you would take as a Scion because you have charm person in your spell list, so you just prepare it anyway, right? And you get calm emotions, charm person and calm emotions. Yeah, empath isn't Jimmy and my jams. Flesh morpher though. You get the following benefits: flexible flesh. When you make a dexterity, acrobatics, or sleight of hand check, you gain a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier. You use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Feel like rogues are just going to really enjoy that one. Anytime you make a sleight of hand check, you just add one of your key attributes to it. It's really reliable and useful. Then your psionic talent, Long Strider spell prepared, you can cast it once without a spell slot. Long Strider is useful. And then at level 3 you have Alter Self. I feel like Flesh Morpher would be a very popular one with rogues. Mind Whisperer, you get limited to telepathy. As the magic action, you can choose a creature you can see within 120 feet of yourself. You form a telepathic connection with that creature. For 1 hour, you and that creature can communicate telepathically with each other within 120 feet of each other. You must share the same language. Could be a really useful early game alternative to Sending Stones. Proper banged my teeth then, but is limited by the range. You know the Mind Sliver cantrip. You also have access to Dissonant Whispers, both pretty decent spells. Psi Trickster, you get Cunning Mind. When you make a deception or persuasion check, you gain a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier. You can use that a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus. Yeah, it's fine. You get Minor Illusion and Disguise Self. And then do you get another spell? No, you do not. And then Psykinetic. Psi Boost, when you take the dash action, you can increase your speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. This number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. It's fine. And then you get Telekinetic Fling, which is cool. You also have the Thunder Wave spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot. That's fine. That's probably the one. You take that just to get access to Telekinetic Fling. I don't see what else, because that is a Scion specific cantrip. So taking that, but then taking that in another class if you don't want to dip into Warlock but really want a D10 cantrip. So if you are something that is ranged, maybe no, I don't know. I'm not sold on that one. Pyrokinesis. Firestarter. Once per turn when you cast a spell or hit with an attack roll that deals bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, or psychic, change the damage type to fire. You know the Produce Flames cantrip. You also have burning spells, burning hands prepared, and you also get Scorching Ray. It's fine. I mean, all of those are fine. I was hoping for something more from the feats, to be honest, more than what is mostly just either switch your damage type and get a couple spells, or give yourself an advantage on 2 specific skill checks and get access to a couple spells. I was hoping for more specific abilities, like the ability to do something that is unique and cool, rather than just here is a new spell that's new to you but isn't actually new. It's you could have been taking this anyway. Chances are half of the classes can take this, you know. Psionic subclasses. Metamorph, physically sculpt life and flesh. So at level 3 they get a bunch of spells. Alter Self, cure wounds, inflict wounds, lesser restoration. At level 5 they get Aura of Haste, Aura of Vitality and Haste. At 7 they get Polymorph and Stone Skin, and at 9 they get Contagion and Mass Cure Wounds. At level 3 they get Organic Weapons. Shape your limbs into weapons whenever you take the attack action or make an attack of opportunity. Reform your free hand. Weird that it specifies reform your free hand when you shouldn't have anything but a free hand, because you don't have to hold a focus as this class. But good that it specifies free hand, I guess. Into one of the following organic weapons: Bone Blade, Flesh Maul, or Viscera Launcher. Incredible. Bone Blade is a finesse 1d8 piercing damage. Advantage on attack rolls if at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the target and the ally doesn't have incapacitated. That's really cool. Flesh Maul is a 1d10 bludgeoning, and a creature hit by the maul has disadvantage on the next strength con save it makes before the... strength or con save it makes before the start of its next turn could be really good for kind of debuffing casters. And then the Visceral Launcher is a ranged weapon, 30-90, deals 1d6 acid damage. On each of your turns when you hit a creature with the attack roll, you can deal an extra 1d6 damage. So just fine. The Visceral Launcher is fine. Probably not one that I would take, because if you want to do range damage, sure, once per turn you can do 2d6. But certainly once you get up there in the levels, you're better off taking that specific Psion cantrip, the Mind Bullets, Telekinetic Fling. As soon as you hit level 5, you're doing 2d10 damage with that. So I can't see me ever taking the Visceral Launcher beyond level 5, and very rarely at level 5, really. But it's fine. The other two are cool. Soul, ahoy! How are we? Level 3, you get Extended Limbs. So, as a bonus action, you can expend a psionic energy dice, and for the next minute, you gain the following benefits. Your reach is increased by 5 feet, your speed is increased by 5 feet, and when you cast a spell that has a range of touch and a casting time of an action, you can make the spell's range 10 feet. Just really good. Turn you into Mr. Fantastic. Solid. Like, a lot on first read, you're like, that doesn't seem amazing. But increased reach, always really useful. Extra 5 feet of speed. So many times I see players just come a little bit short of being able to get into combat or being able to reach their goals. An extra 5 feet for a minute might make a big difference. And then taking touch spells and turning their range into 10 feet and not having to get within hitting range of the thing that you want to give the bad touch to, always really good. Extra attack at level 6. Ho now. Ho. Do we have spellcasters that get extra attack? I can't actually remember. We don't from Sorcerer and Wizard. That's for damn sure. Does the Warlock get an extra attack? I don't think they do. Pretty sure they don't. Which would leave us with, what, the Bard? I can't remember whether the Bard does. Extra 5 feet and you're wielding a lance, so you have 15 feet. Exactly. Does Bard get extra attack? College of Valor gets extra attack. Extra attack is pretty damn good for a Metamorph. Attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. In addition, you can cast one of your Psion cantrips that has a casting time of an action in place of one of those attacks. So you can give a bop and pew with the Mind Bullets. Metamorph is a really solid choice. Quick healing. When you cast Cure Wounds, you can expend 2 psionic energy dice to change the casting time to a bonus action for casting. Huge. When you do, you can roll 1 psionic energy dice and add the number of rolls to the total. See, this is where it gets confusing in the wording, because a lot of people are going to take the expend 2 psionic energy dice and roll 1 psionic energy dice, and I imagine a lot of people are going to assume that that means it costs 3 total energy dice to do this. And I don't think that's how it works. I think it's you expend 2 dice and then roll 1, but it's only cost you 2. But I do think a lot of people are going to read this as expend 2 to change the casting time and then expend another 1 to roll a set. Even though it doesn't say expend, I do think that the wording of this needs tightening up. But quick healing, awesome. Love that. Great. Mutable form. When you use extended limbs, the duration increases to 10 minutes. That's just gross. So what for bonus action, 1 psychic dice, and then for 10 minutes, you increase your reach, you increase your speed, you get 10 feet touch spells, and you get, and then, and you gain one of the following benefits of your choice, effects of which last until the extend limbs ends. So either Stony Epidermis, you have advantage on con saves to maintain concentration, and then you choose a damage type to get resistance to. Great. Superior Stride, if you aren't wearing armor, you can set the dash action as a bonus action and have a climb speed and a swim speed equal to your speed. Amazing. And Natural Flexibility, you gain +2 to AC, and your body, along with any equipment that you're wearing or carrying, becomes pliable. You can move through any space as narrow as 1 inch and can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or end the grapple condition. That is amazing. That's incredible. Spend 5 feet of movement to escape from any non-magical restraints or end it. Just 5 feet of movement to be like out of a grapple. And you get and Natural Flexibility is the one. I feel like that's the one I would most often choose. I really like that. That's really nice. Oof. It is the T1000 fantasy. Oh my god. Play the Warforged, become a Metamorph. Exactly. Oh my god. You really can become the T1000. Oh my god. Mind blown. Life bending weapons. Once per turn when you hit a creature with your organic weapon. I wish it wasn't called that. I really wish it wasn't called that. That's organic weapon is an awful, awful name that they should change immediately, because I'm never going to be able to like keep a straight face where my players are like, I'm going to hit him with my organic weapon. No. Bad Wizards. No. Change this immediately. You can expend 1 psionic energy die and roll it. Each creature of your choice within a 10-foot emanation originating from you regains hit points equal to the number rolled plus your intelligence modifier. You have a healing weapon. Oh. Additionally, 1 creature of your choice in that area takes necrotic damage equal to the number rolled. Really cool. I hate organic weapon as a name. Yeah, Metamorph is a lot of fun. Like the Warforged T100 or T1000. Incredible. I love that. Absolutely great suggestion, Jaina. Amazing. Psi Warrior is the next one. Warp space with the power of your mind. Side note, I absolutely love these little evocative subheadings that they're adding within the 2024 rules. It's a great way to instantly communicate just the fiction and the fantasy of a class or a subclass really quickly to a new reader. I really, really like it. Big into it. Psi Warriors tune their psionic powers to manipulating the space between objects. I need to stop trying to do a fancy voice because my brain is starting to shut down. Capable of teleporting across the battlefield and creating vacuums in space. Amazing. Psi Warrior is never in one place for too long. I've got a feeling I'm going to really like this. When you reach a Scion level specified in the Psi Warper spells table, and you thereafter always have the listed spells prepared. So at level 3 you get a whole bunch of spells. At level 3 it's Expeditious Retreat, Featherfall, Misty Step and Shatter. At 5 it's Blink and Haste. At 7 it's Banishment and Dimension Door. And at 9 it's Steel Wind Strike, Teleportation Circle. That's a bloody solid list of spells. If you want to be moving around, that's a really good list of spells. At level 3, you can cast Misty Step without expending a spell slot. You must finish a long rest before you can cast it in this way again. You can also restore your use of it by expending 1 psionic energy dice, no action required. This is the class that you play if you never ever want to be in a TPK ever again. If you always want to have something locked in, ready to go, so to make sure that you are the one that will live, this is the subclass that you play. You play the Psi Warper, and you are like, as soon as bad stuff starts happening, you're like, cool, I'm out. And you're just gone. Level 3, we also get the Warp Propel. When a target fails its saving throw against your Telekinetic Propel, instead of pushing it, you can teleport the target to an unoccupied space that you can see within 30 feet of you that is horizontal to you. Assuming they mean horizontal on the same like flat plane, because there is no facing, and to be like horizontal you'd have to be like, yeah, they must mean it has to be, you can't teleport them vertically, you can't put them up in the air, they have to be on the same plane that you are on. Just a little bit confusing because horizontal doesn't really come up a lot in D&D, but being able to target something 30 feet over here and teleport them somewhere you can see within 30 feet, that's potentially 60 feet that you can move them, drop them in holes, drop them off cliffs. If you're stood on the edge of a cliff, teleport them horizontally in the air, the space you can see, they'll just fall. And I know that that is a thing that you can do because they mentioned dropping them over pits in the video talking about this. So that is intent as well as being raw. Warp Space at level 6. When you cast Shatter, you can expend 1 psionic energy dice to modify the spell so the radius of the spell's sphere becomes 20 feet. In addition, creatures that fail the saving throw against the spell are pulled straight towards the center of the sphere, ending in an unoccupied space as close to the center as possible. That's really, really specific. I like that a lot, like creating little gravity wells. Very flavorful. Excuse me. Feels like a lot for a level 6 ability that only really does one thing. I'd have to see it. Level 6 also gets Teleporter Combat. Immediately after you cast Misty Step, you can cast one of your psionic cantrips as a casting time of an action as part of the bonus action. That's huge. I'm not 100% sure of how that would interact with usual casting rules, because you're casting it as part of a bonus action, but it is casting a spell that has a casting time of an action. But that is still incredible. You can still hit something with your regular weapon, even if you couldn't give them a second pew. Level 10, you get Duplicitous Target. When a creature you can see makes an attack roll against you, you can take a reaction to expend 1 psionic energy dice and choose a willing creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself that doesn't have the incapacitate condition. You and the willing creature teleport, swapping places with each other. The creature then becomes the target of the attack roll. Great if you are, for some reason, up at the front because you are teleporting all over the place. Or the lines of battle have changed and you want to move the barbarian, the paladin, the fighter, you want to get your front line moving. This seems like a really great class for controlling the positioning of the battlefield, which is exactly what the intention was. Really, really like that. And then at level 14, they get Mass Teleportation. As a magic action, you expend 4 psionic energy dice and choose a huge or smaller creature within 30 feet of yourself. Oh, choose huge or smaller creatures within 30 feet of yourself up to a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1. Each of those creatures is teleported to an unoccupied space that you can see within 100 feet of you, and an unwilling creature that succeeds on a wisdom saving throw against your DC is unaffected. Nice. So, up to a number of creatures up to your intelligence modifier. So, at level 14, we're looking at what, 5 or 6 creatures? So a number of up to huge creatures, 5 or 6 up to huge creatures, and you can teleport them 150 feet. Pretty cool. I think that we'll probably see this being used to completely reorganize the battle. Either completely reposition your side, move the enemies away, place them in disadvantageous positions, or like just completely change the tide of the battle, throw the enemy off the back foot. I think this feels like a subclass that would reward a lot of like really innovative and creative thinking, as well as being one that would just be great for surviving TPKs, because always having a misty step in the back pocket is great. Then next we get to the Psykinetic, mold psionic force for creation and destruction. This is the one that I think is the combat one. A Psykinetic controls the psionic powers like a malleable force. They bend their telekinetic energies into sturdy barriers and strike with the force of a battering ram. At level 3 they get a bunch of spells. So at level 3 they get Cloud Daggers, Levitate, Shield and Thunderwave. At level 5 they get Slow, finally. Telekinetic Crush, which is one of the new spells. At level 7 they get Resilient Sphere and Stone Shape. And at 9 they get Telekinesis and Wall of Force. So level 3 they also get the Telekinetic Techniques ability. When you use the Telekinetic Propel, you can impose one of the following effects on that target. So that's the ability that lets you push or pull enemies. So Boost gives the target speed an increase of 10 feet until the start of the next turn. Disorientate, they can't take attacks of opportunity until the start of the next turn. And Telekinetic Bolt, if they fail the saving throw, they take force damage equal to the number rolled on the psionic energy dice. That's fine. Empowered attack mode, while your attack mode is active, you gain fly speed of 60 feet and can hover, and when you cast a Scion spell, you can add your intelligence modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell. That's huge. Getting just basically permafly from level 6 is pretty tasty, because your attack mode is tied to how many times can you do that? You can do it twice. So it's not permafly, but flying twice is pretty tasty. I feel like the twice rider of your attack mode and defense mode is purely because of this ability, because I've not seen anything else thus far that has justified it until this. Then we get Rebounding Field at level 6. When you cast Shield in response to being hit by an attack and cause the trigger an attack to miss, you can expend a psionic energy dice to launch the force back at the attacker. They make a dex save. You roll 2 energy dice. On a failed save, they take force damage equal to the amount rolled, and you gain temporary hit points equal to that amount. That's amazing. I really like that. And on a successful save, they take half as much damage. So anytime you're casting Shield, you are getting some temporary hit points back. They are taking some damage. Like that a lot. Enhanced Telekinetic Crush. When you cast Telekinetic Crush, you can expend 1 psionic energy dice to modify the spell so that whenever a creature fails or succeeds on the saving throw against the spell, speed is halved until the start of your next turn. Meh, fine. And then Heightened Telekinesis. When you cast Telekinesis, you can expend 4 psionic energy dice to modify the spell so that it doesn't require concentration. If you do so, the spell's duration becomes 1 minute for the casting, and you can target gargantuan creatures and objects. That's pretty cool. I think you could do a lot of interesting things with that. I am not as psyched about Psykinetics as I am about Psi Warpers, but pretty cool. And then finally, to finish off, we have the Telepath, master tactics in the landscape of the mind. They are masters of mind magic. They use their psionic powers for all matters of the mind, whether they bolster the mental defenses of their allies or probe the thoughts of the others undetected. A telepath can be a bastion of psionic aid or a crafty manipulator. Level 3, again, they get a bunch of spells. So at level 3, it's Bane, Command, Detect Thoughts, and Mind Spike. At level 5, it's Counterspell, Speak with Plants. At level 7, it's Compulsion and Confusion. And at level 9, it's Awaken and Modify Memory. Level 3, they get the Mind Infiltrator ability. When they cast Detect Thoughts, they can expend 2 psionic energy dice to modify the spell so that the spell doesn't require spell components or concentration. Target doesn't know that they're probing your mind if they fail. That's huge. For role players, that is enormous. I know plenty of role players that would go ham on Detect Thoughts where they don't know, whether the target doesn't know that you are trying to probe their mind. Level 3, you also get the Telepathic Hub. You have telepathy with a range of 10 feet. When you expend a psionic energy dice as part of the telepathic connection, to increase the range of your telepathy. For the duration of the effect, you can simultaneously contact a number of creatures equal to 1 plus the... I need to start that again. Brain melting. You have telepathy with a range of 10 feet. When you expend a psionic energy die as part of using telepathic connection to increase the range of your telepathy, for the duration of the effect, you can simultaneously contact a number of creatures equal to 1 plus the number rolled on your psionic energy dice. So telepathic connection has to be a normal spell, right? A normal ability. It's got to be one of the normal abilities up in regular Psion. Telepathic connection. Is it? Because I'm not saying... Oh, telepathic connection. It is one of your psionic powers. You get 2 features. Yeah, it's one of your features. So telepathic connection, telepathy of 5 feet. Bonus action, you can extend it 10 times the dice rolled. So let's reread that with that in mind. So it's normally 5 feet, and you can expend a dice to extend it to 10 times the dice number. So this gives you it at 10 feet, and then when you expend a psionic dice as part of using it to increase the range of it, the duration of the effect, you can simultaneously contact a number of creatures equal to 1 plus the number rolled. So it allows you to expand the range and telepathy more creatures inside. Excuse me. It's fine. I think that is adding more complication to what is an already overly complicated, wordy ability, but it is decent. At level 6, you get empowered defense mode. While your defense mode is active, whenever you make a saving throw, you add 1d4 to the save. Just really solid. In addition, while your defense mode is active, you can extend this benefit to creatures you are telepathically connected to using your telepathic connection. Turns you into a little bubble of saving awesomeness. I like that a lot. Potent thoughts: when you add your intelligence modifier to the damage you deal with any Psion cantrip. Just really, really good. Not especially flashy, just over the long term, just really solid. Level 10, you get telepathic bolstering. You have telepathy out to 30 feet. When you or a creature you can see within range of your telepathy fails an ability check or misses with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to expend the psionic energy dice, roll it, and add the number rolled to the d20, potentially turning a failure into a success or a miss into a hit. It's expended only if the check succeeds or the attack hits. That's really cool. That's solid. Empowering your friends with your mind. And then level 14, you get Scramble Minds. When you cast Confusion, you can expend 4 energy dice to modify the spell so the radius of the spell sphere becomes 30 feet. In addition, creatures under the effect of the spell roll 2d10s, and you choose which roll determines their behavior on their turns. Makes Confusion much, much better. I like that a lot. I think my ranking for the subclasses would probably be... First place would either be Metamorph or Psi Warper, and I'm not 100% sure which. Last place would be Psykinetic, and then Telepath would be third place. So it'd be Psykinetic at the bottom, then Telepath, then either Psi Warper or Metamorph, depending on how it's feeling on the day, I think. Overall, very tasty class. I like it a lot. I think it needs another editing pass for clarity of language. I think several of the abilities need to be renamed so they're not so confusing and don't have Psion or Psionic in the name as much, to make it easy to identify what ability you're referencing both within the rules and at table play between each other, because you just have to look at it and it's like Psion, Psionic, Psionic, Psion everywhere. And even within the table, the psionic energy dice are abbreviated down to energy dice. So they already know that psionic energy dice is too wordy But the bones of the class, really solid, really cool, very exciting. I think it would be a very, very popular class. And I would be very excited to see a lot of the interplay between it and other classes with multi-classing. Kind of underwhelmed at the feats. I mean, they're fine, you know, but they are just fine, I think. They've not blown me away. Really like a lot of the spells. Overall, very, very hyped. Think this is a very cool class that I would be very excited to see played. I'd be very interested in playing or having at my table in a campaign when it's published. They definitely do need to add some of that clarifying language, tidy it up, tighten it up a little bit. But overall, super impressed. Just excited to finally get a new class in 5th edition that isn't the goddamn Artificer. And we are like a little bit late over time, but we made good time. Got through that in a decent whack. Go us, go team. Proud of you all. Give yourself a pat on the back. I'm going to call it there because my brain is turning into psionically baked mush. I hope that you've enjoyed the stream. If you have, go ahead and hit the like button because it really does help. I know that all we do as YouTubers is tell you that it helps, but it really does help. And if you want to get more world building goodness and support the channel, join the channel memberships down below. Get access to exclusive content and all that good stuff. See my whole tirade earlier in the stream. For those of you that are watching the VOD, if you're watching this part of the VOD, this part of the VOD will be irrelevant to you because I was about to say I'm going to add timestamps. But if you're watching the VOD, you know that I'm adding timestamps because you're already watching the VOD and I've added the timestamps. I'm not going to cut this out because it's a faff to cut things out on YouTube. So we'll just leave this somewhere in. I won't call it out within the timestamps either. So at some point, you're just going to stumble into this in the future. If you are from the future and not from the now. This is all very meta. For those of you that are in the now, I feel like I'm in Spaceballs. When is then going to be now? For those of you that are here in the now, I appreciate you joining me for the evening and hanging out and contributing to the conversation about the Psion. It has been a pleasure as always. My name is Anto. Do all of the YouTubey things. I don't have the brain to direct you to any other places other than that this evening. So I will just say I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, happy gaming.